Hi, I'm Kelley Chunn, principal of Kelley Chunn and Associates. We provide multicultural and cause-related marketing and public relations. We provide culturally smart strategies to promote social change.
Hi, Kelley.
How are you?
I'm doing great. And you, I love seeing you. Like, you are like by far one of my favorite rock stars in Boston because you do so many things and yet no one knows that you're behind the scenes creating this magic. So where did you start? Like you've been running your company for such a long time, but where did you start? Where did you come from? What's your story?
Well, my story really starts in broadcast news and public affairs as a TV news writer and producer, producing TV shows, TV news shows, and public affairs shows at the time, three network affiliates in Boston. And from there, I served as a consultant in Nigeria, one of the largest, if not the largest countries in Africa. Worked with the Nigerian Television Authority as a consultant, and then came back, worked for the state, promoting affordable housing, which sounds like a misnomer today, but promoting multicultural audiences, promoting to multicultural audiences. And then I taught at Northeastern, and then my consulting business grew organically. I went to teach as an associate professor of public relations. People started calling me. I started moonlighting, won a state contract, one of the first anti-smoking contracts in the country. And then from there, I never looked back, really. I left Northeastern, hung out my shingle, and I've been doing cause marketing, multicultural marketing, and public relations ever since.
Ever since. So how many years have you been running your business?
It's been about 28 years on my own as a collaborative consultant. I work with a pool of other consultants to get the job done and to meet clients' needs.
What are the major things that people come to you for? So, your description of what you do is just so much. It's very, very dense, but when people are seeking you out, what's the mission that they're trying to accomplish?
Well, the through line is really social change. So, for example, if you look at anti-smoking, how we change the landscape in terms of behavior, awareness. So if people are dealing with an issue, it might be related to health, like smoking. We did an obesity prevention campaign long before Michelle Obama, our forever First Lady's Let's Move campaign. We were promoting moving and fitness and eating healthy. Other opportunities have come that dealt with using various issues as a platform. So for example, right now we're working on the restoration of the Shaw 54th Regiment Memorial, the regiment that really is the story of the movie Glory. So there's a monument across from the Massachusetts State House, one of 10 monuments that changed America, so they say, and it's up for restoration. So we're using the idea of the Shaw 54th, Colonel Shaw, and one of the first Black regiments of the Civil War, as a platform to talk about issues of race and social justice. So when people are looking to move the needle on some aspect of social change, they will usually call me. One of our other projects has to do with connecting people in Boston's neighborhoods, especially people of color in Boston's neighborhoods, to the Boston waterfront. Come down to the waterfront. The harbor is a natural resource. There's a walk that you can take. There's a connection to African-American history. You know, there are slave ships that came into the port, and there's a whole history there. So a lot of my work has to do with connecting the neighborhoods of Boston to downtown and vice versa. So one of my through lines or the themes of my business has been uptown, downtown, connecting the neighborhoods to the downtown area.
One of the things that I love the most, and I will always thank Mayor Menino for Mayor Menino of Boston, a beloved mayor, and he passed away a few years back. When you come into the airport, you hear about going to all the different towns, and he would say that was one of his biggest things, where they would follow him around, and he would know all the restaurants to get a little bit of everything. And he always opened the doors of, in order to understand a state, a city, you have to know all little parts of it, get to know the neighbors, get to know the restaurants, get to know the community to really understand what we have to offer. And it's not just the main capital that defines the state, but it is the communities that are the big deal. You are a community advocate, and that's all about bringing people together.
Exactly.
The coronavirus is telling people to stay apart.
Right.
So how has COVID affected your business, and how will you be able to create events to bring people together and eliminate the anxiety that people are definitely having now as things are starting to open?
Well,
I'm so sorry. That was a loaded question.
Well, I mean, that's really what we're grappling with now. Life has really gone totally digital. It's all online, and actually the waterfront project that I just described, we were just on the phone earlier today thinking through what community engagement could look like, based on the audience. Are you trying to reach out to community leaders, to influencers? Then, you're going to have an interaction similar to what we're doing. You're going to be on Zoom. If it's a broader audience, if it's seniors, it's back to the future. You're making calls, you're going through the elder advocates to reach that particular audience through their advocates. If it's younger people, you may be going through Instagram. You may, if you want to have community forums, similar to what, say, the NAACP has been doing recently. They're on Facebook Live. And then people can go back and look at it at their leisure. So really, you're really looking at who the audience is, what their technical capability is, what kinds of platforms they resonate to. The church, for example, we've been streaming services online through Zoom and also through Facebook. So it really depends on the audience and how they like to receive their information, how they like to be communicated with. So it's challenging. It's really challenging. My sweet spot has been civic engagement, community outreach, as you noted. So we're really having to change a lot of the channels that we would typically use. And then the whole idea of the new technology. For example, going back to the Shaw 54th Memorial, the crowds on the Commons, it's not about crowds on the Boston Common where the statue is located. So we've developed an app so that you can immerse yourself in experiencing the memorial. You download the app, and you experience a memorial. You walk around it. It's more than just looking at it, in a very two-dimensional space as you would on a computer. The app really allows you to go to the statue itself. So looking at some of the new technologies based on the audience and what their technical capabilities are. This is an app that you can download on your phone. It's free. Everybody has a phone. So, texting, DMS, all those kinds of things will now come to the fore because we cannot connect in the way that we were doing pre-coronavirus.
I have to say the app is a phenomenal idea. I was on a panel tour in Israel I was invited to come in as a
Mhm.
tour in this region of Israel, it was beautiful. And I had been to Israel
Mhm.
last year, but I wasn't in this area. And the app had us going around, and I'm that curious person where I always find myself going away from the crowd because I want to see details.
I
And
do the same thing.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I know, always scolded, like, Jodi, where's Jodi?
Wanderer, where is she?
And it was so amazing how you could pull in. I mean, we had a rabbi that was doing the tour, but it was like we were pulling in, and all the details that I would have really engaged with, it's like they built it for me. That person
Mm,
wanted to see the corner. I want to see how it's built. I want to see the sculpture up close. I want to see.
right.
It was really on point. So that technology that you guys are using is so perfect for that older person that their eyes aren't perfect and they want to be a little bit closer, or the person that wants to feel like they can touch it. Um,
Right, that they're there,
yeah,
even though
it'll
they're
be very.
not. Yeah. Hmm.
In regards to the time that you'll be able to like bring groups together, how will you think about designing, or have you thought about ways of designing, like once we're able to get people together, how would that look like? I mean, what do you envision for the city? Because that is the whole entire thing where the gatherings, I shouldn't say the crowds, but the gatherings for events, it really makes a big difference for the community. So how are you gonna get the community together? Because there are going to be some people that fall through the cracks that aren't tech savvy, and they are feeling alone right now.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that earlier today, and sometimes it's a phone call. You know, you might have a database that
Yeah.
you will get from that particular community based on relationships that you have built over time, and so it's back to the basics, really. I mean, you get back on the phone. When Corona first started, I mean, like the first weeks,
Mhm.
I actually volunteered to hand out the flyers. The city of Boston had put together brochures in multiple languages,
Mhm.
and we went door to door. You know, we had our masks, we had our gloves. I mean, this was like what, mid-March,
Yeah,
late March.
it
They
was
gave us,
yeah, it was the beginning.
yeah, the city gave us streets. They gave the volunteers streets that we would go. You know, I chose Roxbury because I lived there and it was just easier. I said, I want to go alone. You know, I don't want to go in a crowd.
Yeah.
And we basically just went door to door, old school, and did, you know, a flyer drop. You know, nobody came out. We
Yeah.
just put it in mailboxes. You know, there was no personal interaction. So moving forward, you know, physical distance is going to be an issue, you know, with community meetings, masks, uh, cleanliness, you know, how hygienic is the space.
Yeah.
And even then, there's going to be a lot of resistance to people coming into a public space in that way. Here in Massachusetts, Governor Baker is doing a phased in reopening, and churches are part of phase one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of concern, you know, if you're a senior person and, you know, you may be longing to go to church, but is it really in your best interest, you know, to be in a closed space for, you know, maybe 90 minutes, even though there may be physical distance and you may be wearing a mask? I mean, you are taking a chance. So churches here locally are having a conversation, you know, an ecumenical conversation about what going back to church looks like. You know, do we just continue to worship without walls, you know, on a streaming platform, which is what we're doing now, and maybe going back to church at some later date, even though the state has reopened, you know, the churches.
Yeah, look, my mother lives in Florida, and I mean, I mean, I was gonna say she's a diehard Catholic,
Yeah,
very spiritual, but she's a diehard Catholic. I grew up in that house where you walk into my grandma's house, the holy water was at the door, and it's the
yeah,
kind
yeah,
big,
yeah.
the Last Supper big photo. And my mother, it would take a lot for her to miss going to church on a Sunday.
Hmm.
That's her thing, and she clearly it hasn't happened. I mean, even in Florida, she hasn't gone to church. Florida opened earlier, and she's like, the masses on TV are so much better.
Wise choice.
and
Very
because
wise.
when they announced Florida was open, I'm like, oh, geez, she's going to go to church. Oh my God.
Yeah,
And then when she
yeah,
told me, she's like, I still get up and I still take a shower and I still dress up for church, but I do it from the living room. I'm like,
yeah, yeah. That's the right answer, Mom.
great. You are an entrepreneur. You are a small business. You are a hustler. You are creative in every single way. You've been doing this for such a long time. What would you say to someone that is on furlough, have gotten fired, or literally is like sitting in front of their computer on their 10th zillion Zoom and thinking, I could do this better on my own terms? What would you say to someone that wants to start their business right now during this time? And what would you tell them as the pros and the cons of owning your own business?
Well, I think starting your own business at this time, the word, as you know, is pivot. You know, if you already had a business idea, how digital is it? You know, what are your relationships? What is your network? What is needed? Where are the gaps? What is your online identity or your digital footprint, you know, in terms of how you're going to market? You need to ask a lot of questions, just as you would if you were starting a business during any other period of time. What is the market telling you? You know, it's not so much what are the answers as what are the right questions. And those are some of the questions I would be asking myself.
Okay.
Because there are people who are starting their own businesses right now,
Mhm.
but you really have to go through a thought process. And then the other thing I would say is, to the extent you've started a business and you're in growth and you have all of your documents and you know you are kosher with the IRS, follow the money. I mean, there are relief funds out there for people who are in business. So, you know, if there are resources that you qualify for, there's still payroll protection money available. So, taking advantage of that, you know, to the extent that you can, even if you are in startup mode as of, you know, whatever the deadlines were for being eligible for the funds. But, you know, I would say do your research. You know, really listen to what the market is telling you and make sure that you have support um, in terms of relationships and your own network, because that's really what's going to help see you through.
Excellent. Thank you. You take care of everyone. Like I've known you for so many years. I mean, since I started my career, you take care of everyone and you always have. What are you doing to take care of yourself during this time?
Well, I have been looking after myself. One thing that I have done consistently since this started is walk. So I have seen Boston, walk through my neighborhood. I've stayed
Yep.
close to home because
Yep.
we know it's safer at home, right? But really seeing spring just kind of blossom, you know, during these past 8 or 9 weeks. I've really made that a regimen. So when the work day is over, because I'm still working,
Yep.
I go out like around 5 o'clock and I walk through the neighborhood. It's a hilly neighborhood, which is good. So I can kind of, you know, change the terrain, and there's some resistance and it's
Yep.
challenging. So the movement, the exercise, and then slowing down, you know, just kind of, it's not so go as it used to be. You're not running out to a meeting. So taking advantage of that and pacing myself. And I'm also a fan of Calm. So having some kind of a meditator, that's a software app, and it's free. Uh, you can meditate to it. They have different exercises that you can use
Mhm.
to kind of calm yourself down, you know, to meditate. And then I have good friends. So even though we can't go out to dinner, you know, I have snuck off down the highway once or twice, you know, which was kind of surreal. Um, but and then, you know, the support of friends and family. I was a caregiver for my mom. As I know you were a caregiver for your grandmom for
Mhm.
several years, and I think she was kind of a role model, you know, in taking care of yourself and being mindful. You know, so I think I learned that from her. You know, being taking care of yourself and being intentional about it.
Yeah.
Which is something I think you need to do. Doing what we do, it can be very stressful. And so I think you really have to be intentional about taking care of yourself and having a spiritual life, whatever your spiritual practice is, whether it's prayer or music or, any of this, some dance parties going on, on Instagram. I have a friend who lives in New York, and she's dancing to DJ Nice. I'm like, who's that? She said, she's dancing for hours, So I think you have to find ways that kind of get you off the screen. I had to stop watching the financial channel. What is it? MSN?
Oh, why would you do that to yourself?
Oh, girl. Turn the TV off.
Watching the news is bad enough, but watching the financials, no.
I stopped when oil went to negative. What was it? -0. I mean, I didn't even know that was a thing.
$1.25. I filled my tank twice. I was like, what?
Well, that was the flip side. If only we'd had somewhere to go, But so yeah, that's very, very important, and I've kind of learned that the hard way. Is you can't do it all, and you can't do it all in one day. Yeah. So
true. In a perfect world, everything really goes back to the new normal, but it goes to normal. Like in a perfect world, tomorrow the world opens up. The world, not just your local town, the world opens up tomorrow. What does your tomorrow look like?
I want to travel. I really do. There's some places I want to go. I want to go back to Barbados. I want to go to the beach. The things that you can't do are the things that you want to do. I have a godson who's actually retiring from the Navy, which is kind of scary. And I wanted to go to his retirement party in August. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I think that's going to be too soon.
Yeah.
But, I want to get out there. I really do, because I've been fortunate and really privileged in that I have been able to work during the pandemic, and I feel really blessed in that way. So I really want to get out there, get on the road. I don't know if I'm ready for a plane. I mean, and I'm definitely not ready for a cruise, which I've never been on. No.
I went once.
I really would like to travel somewhere. Yeah.
I went, the only place that I mean, outside of being at home, I live in Marblehead, so I go running, as most people know, I go things like that. But I went to Wareham, where my best friend lives. I'm excited. I'm getting it, because I hadn't driven a car in 9 weeks. I'm like, I think I should start my car. I think I should do that.
Goodness.
And I literally went and I drove to Wareham and had a great day. Stayed in the backyard. We did gardening. Her kids had not left the house in 7 weeks, and we went to a garden center, and the kids were freaked out because everybody was wearing masks. So the kids were go back home. It was very overwhelming for them. One thing, but they saw people, and people were so rigid about their area of walking. So the kids were just really freaked out. I got home. I was physically and mentally exhausted just for having fun with my best friend that I've done this 10 zillion times.
Yeah.
I was physically exhausted because I've only been in a small container. And it took all of me to come back home, park the car, get home, take a shower. And I was like, all right, I'm going to sleep. I know it's 4:00 in the afternoon, but I'm done, because we're not.
Yeah, well, I have not been as diligent maybe as some other people. I snuck out a couple of weeks ago and got my hair cut. I had
what?
I had the mask. The guy, my hairstylist, he had a mask, and there was nobody else there, and all that kind of stuff. Although the barbers and the hairstylists, the salons are going to open officially next week. So I did that, and I've been grocery shopping the whole. I mean, that's what I do for excitement.
I've gone to the market, but I literally I go to the market and I double buy, so that way I don't have to.
Right. I mean, it's not like I'm in there every day. Like once every 2 weeks or whatever, and with the mask. And I try to go in the morning before everything's been picked over and before the lines start and all that. So but it is very surreal, the mask. Years ago, I remember I was in Japan, and it really struck me, when we got off the train to come into Tokyo, the cab driver had the mask, and and it was a thing. I was like, what? you know,
remember. I mean, I remember being in China. I remember being in Japan, in Korea, and I'm
yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not sure why what they're protecting themselves against. I mean, because it's something that we're not used to. And someone asked me, they're like, "Would you do it?" I'm like, I go, "No," and I'm like, "Oh well, look at that, I am now."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very strange.
Last question. If you had an ask, professionally or personally,
Mm.
the ask that you'd want anyone that's listening right now to hear from the mouth of Kelley.
Well, I feel like I'm having a moment. You know, my business has been all about social change. I've been working from home for the past several years. I can see and appreciate, I think it's because of my news background, that change is not always a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much to me about going back to what was as to going forward to what can be. So I really think this is a moment, this is an inflection that we may never, or I may never experience anyway in my lifetime, for us to reimagine what the future might look like.
Yeah.
So that's the frame of mind that I'm in, being so committed to positive social change. I see the opportunity when you've got almost 40 million people in the country out of work. It's, it can lead to despair. But I really think that the United States is a country of innovation, and we can work our way out of this.
That I'm absolutely 100% positive about that one. One last thing that I wanted to check in on. You were going door to door. That was in March. You are a community leader. You are speaking to people. How are people out there? How are people doing?
Well, I think it depends on who you mean. I'm part of a faith community, and I think because we've been supporting each other all along, that that has been really good spiritually and for mutual support in all kinds of ways. Yeah. From the spiritual part of it to people looking for jobs, to people dealing with food insecurity. So I think if you can find the resources and the support, you are going to be in a much better place. I was walking around one of the more beautiful spaces in Boston yesterday. It's called Jamaica Pond. Yeah. And because the weather's gotten warmer, there are a lot of people walking around the pond, and you can sense, some tension when you're in those kinds of very public places, the physical distancing and, not having a mask and, giving somebody a glare behind your mask. So there's some, there is some tension, and there is a lot of, particularly in communities of color, which are on the front lines. You've got the bus drivers, the people who are packing your groceries, the nurses,
the truckers.
Right, exactly. That they are in a very different place than those of us who have the privilege of being able to work from home. And so I can't really complain. It depends on where you are along the spectrum. I think there's a lot of loneliness, people who cannot deal with being by themselves, or who may be addicted, who may have addictions, and they need that support group in order to help see them through. There are a lot of layers to this thing. You talk the seniors. Even though I love my mother dearly, and I was devastated when she passed, I would not have wanted her to live through this, and be in a nursing home, or a long-term care facility. So, when I say we need to reimagine our future, these are some of the things that I'm thinking about.
I am with you with your mom. My grandmother she lived to 95 in 1 month. took care of her for 21 years. We had a group, I mean, we had a revolving door of caretakers in her home.
Right.
I would be having a heart attack right now. Like there would be no eating, sleeping, or breathing for me because the amount of people that I had on a schedule to take care of my grandmother, so that way she was able to stay in her home.
Exactly.
Number, and there's no way. There's no way this would have had happened.
Same thing. Doctors coming in and out, or caregivers, housekeepers. You know, all of that. All of that went through my mind. Yeah.
So yes, I'm with you in every single way. But I have to say my final words of you are by far one of my favorite rock stars in the state of Massachusetts. I've known you for a long time. You are a dove. You are a dove to our community, and you do so much. I mean, you do so much. And sometimes I get on you, I'm like, I go, Kelley, you're not promoting yourself enough. You're so awesome. Why aren't you promoting yourself? You need to do more marketing. I mean, you are known by so many people, but there are a lot of people that don't know you. And I'm advocating, I'm screaming to the world how awesome you are. You are so amazing. And you are by far one of my biggest advocates. Like when I get little notes from you and like randomly, like I like a note, good job or this, and I'm like, oh my God, I go, she's paying attention to me. Like, wow, she's so busy. So I mean, I appreciate you. I don't say it every single day. I don't call you. I don't email you. We don't go out, but I see you.
But when we connect, we really connect. And I really appreciate your appreciation, Jodi, because your energy, your knowledge, it's just
my craziness.
Infectious. I'm sorry?
My craziness.
It's infectious. Even your craziness is infectious. And it's a good time to be crazy, believe me, because it's a crazy time.
When this is done, we are going out for dinner. That's my promise to you.
Promise. Yes. Maybe I'll meet you up in Woodman's, which is clam. You know Woodman's.
Yeah.
That's where I snuck off to. Woodman's.
I would have met you
there. They had the whole takeout thing going. You know,
if I knew you were going there, I would have met you there. We could have sat by the water.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that again, let me know, and I will
be
there.
Definitely.
Oh my God, that just made me excited.
It should. Yum.
For anyone out there, another shout out. Woodman's, the best fried clams. They're amazing. They're historical. They're like Essex, Mass.
It's a landmark. It's a foodie landmark.
So anyone that wants to go on a road trip that's in Massachusetts or anyone in New England, Woodman's.
Definitely.
Kelley, thank you so very much for taking time.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Have a good weekend. Go get something to eat, Jodi.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.